Anthony Stokes as well has carved himself out a role. There's a wee partnership. He said Lustig coming back has really helped McGregor, and he's really looking at that being a partnership. And he then just, he talked about what it was like to manage Celtic in terms of the prestige and all that kind of thing. But he also done it with Joe with a steely determination that had not a single person in that room say a word. You could have heard a pin drop. Everybody was hanging on his words, including Peter Lawwell and people like that. Everybody hung on every single word. And it was, as Jason said before it was like getting a team talk in his dressing room. You felt 10 feet tall after that. And you just thought, this guy's so... And it's funny because I know a guy who works for a newspaper who travelled through Norway talking to folk about him. And he said, every single one of them were like, this guy's got it. This guy's a real deal. And I was kind of never really saw that until I saw that. And speaking to him on Monday, it was just like, oh my God, he's got an aura about him. He's a really, really big, imposing guy. And he also talked about he really wants the fans to love the players, and he wants to get a bigger connection with the fans and players, and he'll do anything he can. And he actually turned around to Lawwell and Jameson and said, if you need me to do anything, I'll do it. I'll go out there, I'll go to places, I'll go and meet fans. And I know that's what Celtic, people like think, oh, you cunts go in for meetings. They've got to do it with everybody. They've got anybody who's interested. They've got to take these people out, bring you in, Celtic Park, all the rest of it. So it was not just us, it's everybody. And Dyler's fully on board with that. Now, he doesn't have to be. You know what I mean? He could just be like, listen, I'm the manager of the football team. That's what I'm interested in. But he wants to create a dynasty here. And, as I said, I spoke to him briefly after it as well. And again, I was just awe-inspired. And I'm sure Jason was as well.
Paul, I'm just sitting here with a big grin in my face, and it was Joe. It was I kind of wasn't expecting it, right? But I'll be honest with you. See, when he spoke, you listen, and he's a Beria guy, and he's got that madness about him. And he spoke about how Celtic would maybe go 2-3 up, and they would settle, and they would wait for the next game. He says, that's not possible playing for my team. He says, I want to kill teams. He says, I want to go for the jugular. He says, I want to murder teams. And he says, I want to win 7-8, 9-0. He says, we've got the players to do it. We can do it. He says, I don't have passengers in my team. He says, I need 11 defenders and I need 11 attackers. He says, I need everybody to be playing as one. He says, I want my players, when they score, to go to the crowd. I want them to go, because the Green Brigade spoke about Emilio chucking the shirt on and Guidetti doing it, and that brings the fans on board. But he says, you've got to remember, some of these are young kids, so it's scary for them. And you don't think about it that way. Do you know what I mean? You've got 40,000 lunatics shouting in that, and they're like 19, 20-year-olds scoring a goal. They maybe feel, I maybe don't want to run to them. And it was the thing, you're like, it was like, it just brought us in, and it was like, it was amazing, and everybody in that room, if you weren't took on with that, you were in that room, then you get something wrong with you, because that's my first ever Celtic team talk, and I'll never forget it. And I've got ultimate faith in this guy now. I think when you get a pet, Paul, you all right? You having a heart attack yet?
I'm just covering, remembering it.
Sorry, mate.
But what I see as well, Jason, is that when you talk about the Green Brigade, one of the guys, I think it was Barry, said that Johansson had went over the Green Brigade on Saturday after the game, and then they had to do that night, and I think it was the CSA, and he said all the boys were singing his name all night, just because of that one act. And Dyler was right on board with that. I mean, people have to remember, Dyler was a bit of a nutcase before he came to Celtic. Kicking advertising balls and stripping off and all that kind of thing. And I've never seen that, any of his interviews of that, but I saw it on Monday. I saw it in his eyes. He's got the eye of the tiger. And, he's got a clear route of what he's going to be doing and how we're going to be progressing. And, we're talking about the cheating in Sevco and whatever, and somebody just shouted at him, he said, as long as you beat them in fucking January, and he just looked straight at him and said, we will. You know what I mean? And that was it.
I know, and but he's a man that he knows what he wants in life. Do you know what I mean? And Paul, we've spoke about this. See if anybody thinks this guy's came to Norway and he's overawed and he's maybe standing in the corner of the dressing room saying to the guys, please, there is no way. And we've not been in his dressing room, but I can assure you that guy will control that place. That's his team. That's his team. And it's like I'll go off tangent a wee bit here, right? Here's a thing, right? Davy Moyes, right? People going about Davy Moyes being this manager. Leon Osman of Everton brought a book out. It's caused a bit of a star. He's sort of slated a few players and stuff like that in it. But he writes a bit about when Everton get beat with Wigan off the FA Cup. Mm-hmm. And Roberto Martinez was the manager of Wigan. And Wigan beat them 3-0 at Goodison. And see Davy Moyes' team talk before it, quite a lot of big teams had been knocked out. I think this was the quarter-finals, maybe. I think it might have been the quarter-finals. So this is probably Davy Moyes' best chance for silverware since he was at Everton. His team talk before the game consisted of telling the players, don't choke, don't choke, don't choke. He went around all the players, he's better not choke today, he's better not choke. And what did they do when they went out in the park? They all choked. Because he drilled it into their head. And every one of them, Leon Osman talks about, he spoke to, it was Leighton Baines or whatever after the game, and he says, do you know what? He says, I wouldn't mind to have him in our dressing room about Martinez. Because it just shows you how Moyes is at his depth with that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? And see Dyler, there is no way Dyler will be saying that care of the Paul.
No, you're right. I think, touch on the. I mean, when Moyes, when you go to Man United, right? I mean, fucking hell. All you've got to do is motivate them. They're all wonderfully talented, world class football players, and he just. I mean, you see, obviously Ferguson, the master of it. What Dyler's got about him is he just doesn't give a toss. He does not give a fuck about what anybody says or anything. He's just like, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it, and this is how will be the end result. And he said that. He said, I've talked about I want to control games in the Champions League and I want us to be the ones that are pressing the ball high and teams to be scared of us and going away and all that kind of thing. So he's got grand visions. And I say, the whole time this is happening, Peter Lawwell was just looking at him like, fucking hell, man. Yeah. You know what I mean? He was taken aback at how good it was. And to just hold a room like that in the palm of your hand for a Norwegian guy to come in as Celtic manager and do that, it took some doing, like.
Aye, big time. And it's like, see, for no matter how much we were greeting to all and stuff like that before it, once he said that, everything paled into insignificance to me for that moment. I just I was blown away.
Sounds like fucking Ronnie Daly does a bit of after-show hypnotism, does he?
I don't know, Joe, but it worked anyway, mate.
Thanks for all the complaints, guy. Now Ronnie's going to erase your memory.
But Jason, tell folk about the exchange with Lawwell about Ronnie Dyler before it started.
What was that? When he came and sat
when he came over and sat next to us, and he said to Jason, Ronnie's going to be there, so no hard questions, and we all laughed, and Jason went, no fucking chance, and Lawwell actually busted laughing.
He did. And to be fair to Peter Lawwell, he came over to all the tables and shook our hands. All right, boys, welcome and all that, And I'll stand up, and I like the guy. It's the first time I've been in his. I've not been in his company as such talking to him, but I've been in his company quite a few times before. But that's the first time I've had a chance to get a blether with him, albeit in a room with other Celtic supporters. But I like the guy. And that's people want to slate me for that, I do. I genuinely like the guy.
Well, I think the most important thing is that whether you like or dislike him is that he seems to be listening to folk now. I mean, you had the Green Brigade, you had people there that probably never have been anywhere near. We would never have been anywhere near it 2, 3, 4 years ago because they kind of know where we're coming from, where the Green Brigade are coming from. But now you're in there, and it has to be said that probably us in the Green Brigade are the most vocal people there towards him. And I said that to John Paul Taylor before. I said, what to expect. And he said, listen, maybe we need this. Maybe we need fucking folk in here screaming at us. Because everybody, at the end of the day, everybody can say whatever they fucking like about Peter Lawwell, whoever. Everybody listening to this show, at that meeting, at Celtic Football Club wants Celtic to be the biggest and best club in the world. And we're all singing off the same hymn sheet on that result. You know what I mean? Whether Peter Lawwell was there or no. And clearly Peter Lawwell's going to get a lot of stick at the AGM that's coming up as well, but the fact that he seems to be listening now is a big thing because, it has to be said, you could tell by his reactions to a lot of things that he's probably not been listening enough. Hopefully now he will be.
And I still think he's too late, and certain areas. I think the horse is bolted a lot by a lot of people, but he's doing it now, and it's better than nothing, And I think if he can listen, but I've got my doubts of the people he surrounded himself with as well. I don't know. I wasn't very impressed, and I don't mean that disrespect. I don't know the guys. That's me meeting the guys for 2 hours and knowing a personal level. So I don't know. They might be brilliant, but they might have their hands tied. I don't know.
Jason, that's a question I wanted to ask. Is that Peter Lawwell's downfall? The fact that maybe he has people around him or in the structure that he sort of relies on who aren't probably up to speed or as good at their job as they probably should be.
Yeah, but he's employed them.
I know, but he doesn't run HR. Somebody else runs HR and employs these folks. You know what I mean? You get graduates who haven't got a clue what they're doing. You know what I mean? But what I'm saying is that the problem in terms of us being fans on the receiving end of what happens in the sort of structure of the office structure, as you know yourself, that comes down the lane, is the problem that those people aren't good at communicating, possibly? Because they're not good at communicating with us.
But I work in projects, Joe. If I make an arse things, my project manager's getting it in the neck for the programme manager. My boss will take the rap for me. If ultimately I'll suffer. But at the end of the day, it's his fault for employing me.
Yeah, that's true.
So at the end of the day, it goes up the way. And in a position that Peter Lawwell's got, he's got to take responsibility for the people that are working round about him. I mean, for instance, we've got an app on our phone, doesn't even work. We spoke about that with Harper. Doesn't even work.
Something live, is it?
Aye. It doesn't work non-match days. It's like...
Yeah. What's the point of that?
The media channel for Celtic, is there one? Who is our media guys? What are they actually doing? See our PR guys, does anybody even know who they are? Does anybody know what they look like?
No.
That's quality public relations, isn't it? We've got a massive operation here with thousands and thousands of people that donate their life to it. But we're not moving with the times. But hopefully we're going to start.
Aye, and it was like there was talking about. There was one guy, the boy there, Adrian. He just seemed so far out his depth. He would go torn to pieces on the kick-off times. He didn't understand that he made this big thing about change the kick-off time. And the guy kept saying to him, "But you changed it in 9 fucking days, notice." And he just couldn't get it. He then went on about a membership scheme, which he just made a complete and utter arse. He basically he would have been as well just standing up saying, "Would love to do a membership, but I haven't got the first fucking clue how to do it." And then he fucking then says, and I wrote this down because I couldn't actually believe what I said it to Jason. We were going on about the prices for the semi-final, and he's like, I said, I hope it's going to be the same price as the fucking Aberdeen United because they're not going to price it that big. He's like, well, we don't know. I said, what do you mean you don't know? Well, it'll be doing to this, that, and next thing. Then he admits that it's a 4-way split between whatever the money is. So in other words, we could get charged double what Aberdeen United, and they'll still get the same money as we do.
Fuck off.
And it's just like, what the fuck are you talking about? And it was like, you could just see him, he literally, as a human being, was shrinking because he was getting everything wrong. And there did seem to be a lot of, I don't know if Jason, but there was a lot of questions asked where people kind of looked at each other blankly as if to say, well, who's going to answer that? Because nobody really seemed to know who the fuck was responsible for it. In that respect. And I mean, they admitted, things that had got wrong with it, and the 2-for-1 tickets was just a complete non-starter. That nobody. They kept focusing in on the 1 o'clock thing, Joe, about being, well, there was no difference.
And no difference in the crowds.
Crowds and that. And everybody's saying, it's not the fucking crowds, it's the fact that you only told people 9 days before it. And they just couldn't get into his fucking heat, so. Then they said, well, we'll do a survey. And, of course, I think people listening will have to check their email boxes. I ain't I've sent out a survey this evening. Saying, do you want 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock, And the people were saying...
Because they wouldn't have suggested the survey if we didn't suggest it today.
And people are saying, but you've already changed the fucking kick-off time. So what's the point in that? So,
it's a survey after it's happened.
Let's have a survey because, we can't change any of this shit, but we just want to find out how annoyed you are.
And there was a bit of debate as well, Joe, about, and they mentioned about, and I'm sure they've mentioned this in their official channels, the possibility of changing or cancelling the St Johnstone game on the 10th of January at Celtic Park people we can take a winter break then.
But we won't know until nearer the time.
Aye, they won't know.
Hey, no, Paul. I need to get this bit. We won't know because maybe Ronnie won't want it. Well, I was fucking sitting there.
I know, and it was just like, but for fuck's sake, it's like the middle of November now. But,